Could it be? Me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to the 2018 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series, where your man Louie Tee aims to break down all 32 teams in the National Football League's 2018 NFL Draft by using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the Draft Wrap-Up Series, as we cannot tell how these players are going to pan out, and I don't want to discount any of these young men before they get their chance in the National Football League. And so we'll get a score for each and every single player selected, apply bonuses when necessary, divide by the number of picks, which will then yield us an overall grade for that team's draft. We'll then move on to the next team in the series picked by you. That's right, you, the viewer, are in total control, as this is the You Pick format. Simply be the first to leave a comment in the comment section when the video is uploaded, stating two things: the team you'd like to see next and the phrase itself, next. So, next and the team you'd like to see next. An example would be next, Bills. Speaking of which, we're talking Buffalo Bills football. Nobody, and I mean nobody, makes the playoffs for the first time since 1999 like the Buffalo Bills. Let's talk about their 2018 NFL draft and why I think Brandon Beane has turned in a magnificent draft class, addressing every single need I think the Bills really had on the table, and then some. You've got to be proud of this draft if you're a Bills fan, and I'm here to tell you why. We start with the very first pick in this Bills 8-pick draft with the quarterback position, one that needed to be addressed very early on. And so they did exactly that, trading up with Tampa Bay to get the guy that they coveted at number 7 in Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen. So you look at Josh Allen, and I'm not going to break Josh Allen down, as I've already done that in the Draft Prospects 101 series. So if you're looking for a thorough, extensive breakdown of Josh Allen, check out that series on the Louie Tee Network in the playlist section, 2018 Draft Prospects 101 series. But I will tell you this was my favorite quarterback. If I thought that the best quarterback in this draft class was Josh Rosen, if you could protect him, but my favorite quarterback in this draft class, and the guy that I thought had the most upside, was Josh Allen. And so I think the Bills got the right guy for the job, despite the whole negative situation that arose prior to the draft with him and some tweets that he made back in 2012 that had a little bit of racial undertones to it. This is a guy that can spin the football. I think he was immature. It does not absolve him of wrongdoing in that situation. But as you saw at the press conference, his teammates, or at least one of them, said, look, man, that's behind us. We're going to move forward. I like this guy. And I think Josh Allen has matured since then, and hopefully he said all the right things. Hopefully he'll address his teammates if that needs to be done. Sometimes in the locker room, you need to put guys at ease and let them know where you stand. But that notwithstanding, putting all of that other stuff aside, when you're just looking at the football player itself, a lot of people wanted to dissect this guy's accuracy or lack thereof. I think he's going to be just fine at the next level. A lot of people say you can't fix inaccuracy. I tell you that with a fine tweak here and there, I think Josh Allen is going to be just fine. And I think some of his incompletions had to do with some of the receivers he was throwing the football to. And it wasn't always the best crop. That's not an excuse. I'm telling you that this guy has a chance. And I know there are some comparisons out there. A lot of people say, hey, sounds like if you just strip the names away and you didn't tell me who you're talking about, sounds like you're talking about Blake Bortles all over again. That could be the case, all right? This guy's got an extremely high ceiling, but a very low floor. So you're hoping, if you're the Bills, that you maximize what this guy can be, because if you get it right here at the quarterback position, the Bills could be a team to be reckoned with for quite some time. They're building a bully out there quietly in Orchard Park, and this is a guy that, if you're going to take that next step, has to be the guy that you think that he is. And I think you got the right guy for the job. And so in the first round, 7th overall pick, Wyoming quarterback Josh Allen for me. You know what time it is.
Hit from high. It's a deep. It is out of here.
So we move on to your next pick in the draft. And to me, after this next pick, Brandon Beane could have just dropped the mic, went home, and said, hey, I'm done. I thought the Bills had a fabulous draft just off of the first day of action, but they weren't done there. But this next guy, if Josh Allen was one of my favorite prospects in this year's draft, especially at the quarterback position, this next pick here, this next prospect was the guy that I was most bullish on, the one that I would tell you, if you ask me, barring injuries, who's the one guy that you are confident, damn near 100% sure is going to be a guy that gets it done at the next level, at a very high level? I tell you, it's the Bills. First round, 16th overall selection. Second first round pick is the Bills package up a deal to move up and get this guy. Remember, Bills had 2 first round picks, put together a package, including their second round selection, to move up and get this guy. Thought it was the right thing to do. Or was that for the pick for Josh Allen? Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is the guy that I was most excited about when you're talking about Buffalo Bills in their 2018 NFL draft. I'm talking about linebacker out of Virginia Tech, Tremaine Edmunds. Look, I'm not going to break Tremaine Edmunds down. I've already done that, and I've already gushed all over this guy about what he can be at the next level. And keep in mind, he's only 19 years old. He's such a puppy. He's such a baby. This guy's only going to get better. He's a young man in a grown man's body, and the sky's the limit for this guy and what he can be. And I think he's got the right coaching staff around him. He's got a defensive-minded head coach that's going to maximize his talent. He knows, his head coach, Sean McDermott, knows what an all-pro linebacker looks like and is supposed to play like. He came from Carolina with Luke Kuechly. This is a guy that is going to be every bit as good, if not better, than Kuechly when it's all said and done, if you ask me. That's how bullish I am on Tremaine Edmunds. I think you got a steal here at 16. This guy had no business being on the board at this point. I think he can rush the passer. I think he can play inside at the linebacker position. You can drop this guy into coverage. There's not anything he can't do on a football field. There's some fine-tuning in terms of learning and more experience that he needs to gain, but that will come just off of him playing. But if this guy's healthy, you got yourself the next big thing at the linebacker position in the first round, 16th overall selection. Virginia Tech linebacker Tremaine Edmunds is...
Hit right high. It's a deep. It is out of here.
So back-to-back jacks for the Buffalo Bills to start out their 2018 NFL draft. A beautiful day one executed by Brandon Beane. But what does the rest of the draft look like for this Bills football team? So let's dive into what else they were able to do in this draft as we go on to the third round, 96th pick overall. Stanford defensive lineman Harrison Phillips is the selection. So Harrison Phillips was a guy that I was not that fond of going into the process. He looks the part of an offensive lineman. I never thought he was overly athletically gifted. And so I frowned upon him. I said, this guy isn't what everyone is telling you he's supposed to be. Yet the numbers bear out something totally different. Yet when I watched the tape, all those feelings that I had before of this guy not really being what I thought he was kind of came back. Now, I'm going to tell you this. He's a good football player, and I had a discussion, if you check out my podcast, Louie Tee Network podcast, on Apple, on Stitcher, on Google Play. Shameless plug, yes, I know. But you check out my podcast, episode 9, I had special guest on talking draft. And we chopped it up, and we both said that we didn't love Harrison Phillips. But I said, you know what he's going to be, right? And it's amazing. It's funny that I said this. So you know what he's going to be, right? He's going to be Kyle Williams. You know this, right? He said, you're probably right. He's probably going to be Kyle Williams, which is a really good NFL career for a decade plus and a really productive football player. And what do you know? The Bills select him to learn under Kyle Williams, to be the new Kyle Williams when Kyle finally hangs it up, and he signed a one-year deal to stay in Buffalo, presumably to end his career in 2018. So for all intents and purposes, passing the torch from one Kyle Williams to the next Kyle Williams here in Harrison Phillips at 6'3", 307. He looks the part. All right. Again, his body is shaped like an offensive lineman, and maybe if he wasn't wearing 66, maybe if that was a 99, it would change my perspective of him. But just looking at him, he looks like an offensive lineman. I could never get past that, and it's just something about that. I don't know. It's dumb. I know it's stupid, but anyway, this guy's an ex-high school wrestler and a damn good one. Those guys usually fare well in the trenches. They understand leverage. They understand how to use their hands. They understand technique. So those guys that are ex-wrestlers in the trenches are usually guys that win those individual matchups. 42 reps of 2 1/4 means this guy is extremely strong, and that's unique for a guy with about 33-inch arms, 34-inch arms. You rarely hear of guys with arms that long putting up 2 1/4 that many times. That's damn impressive, if I may say so myself. So you're talking about a guy that is extremely strong and stout at the point of attack. 15.5 career sacks. This guy, he knows how to play the game of football. You know, I said all of that before to say this. The guy knows how to play football. And we start with his pros measurables. At 6'3", 307 with 34-inch arms, the guy looks the part of a really good interior defensive lineman at the next level. Athleticism, 5'2", 140. The guy can move, though. Like, he's not a great athlete. Let's not get it twisted. But he moves well enough. Somehow, some way, he finds his way to the football. I don't understand how, because it doesn't seem like he's moving very fast, but somehow he gets to the football. So there's something to be said about that. Hand usage, I think he uses his hands very well, has a nice little swim technique, does a good job of getting up under the pads. When he's at his best, he's winning the leverage battle. When he's tired, when he stands up all the way and is erect, that's when he loses battles. That's when he stalemates. That's when he can be controlled in the run game and doesn't make any headway as a pass rusher. But when he stays low, uses his leverage, and uses his hands properly, that's when Harrison Phillips is at his best. Awareness. Let me combine these next two pros. Awareness and point of attack physicality. This guy's a stack and shed monster. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone at the collegiate level stack and shed as well as I've seen from Harrison Phillips at the interior defensive line positions. This is a guy that unbelievably and has this uncanny ability to stand an offensive lineman up and play peekaboo on each side of a gap. And wherever that running back decides to go, he'll discard and he'll get to that ball carrier. And I say that because this guy had a whopping, and I'm not stuttering and I'm not making this up, and yes, I'm talking about a defensive lineman from the interior. He had 102 tackles in 2017. That is utterly ridiculous. I don't know if I've ever heard of any such nonsense before in my life, but when you watch him, you can understand why, because he's a stack and shed monster. And that's how you get the ball carriers. You play possum, you hide behind the offensive lineman, ball carrier thinks he's got a hole, and then at the last second you go, no you don't. You discard, you throw that offensive lineman away like garbage, and you go get the ball carrier, and that's what Harrison Phillips does. Very stout at the point of attack. His ability versus the run, I just told you, the guy had 102 tackles in one season. Not for a career, in one season. Insane. Tackling ability, again, do I need to really reiterate that? I don't. Motor and endurance, this guy, again, he gets tired just like any other 300-pound guy does after a number of snaps, but this is a guy that's high energy, high motor, going to give you everything he's got, and he wills his way to plays. And again, You can't ask for much more than that. I always say, look, give me the guy that may be a little less talented, but it's going to give me everything he's got in the tank on every single snap. I'll take that guy over the guy that's uber talented, but takes plays off consistently. I don't want that guy because I don't know what I'm getting from snap to snap. I know what I'm getting from snap to snap with Harrison Phillips. Impact on the game. As a defensive lineman, I've mentioned this numerous times. Sometimes you can't tell just by looking at the stats, although with this guy, sometimes looking at the stats will tell you everything you need to know about his performance and how he impacted the game. But he's got a really solid impact on the game, whether he's making a play. Can't tell you how many times I watched this guy blow up a play by getting into the backfield, not make the tackle, but change the course of the running back prematurely, and boom, one of his linebackers, one of his other teammates cleaning a guy up for a no gain or a loss of one or a gain of one. So his job is done on that play. If he's able to knife in, blow something up, and cause havoc early in a play and not let the back get going up the field, that's an impact on the game. So you go from all those pros to some of his cons. Redirect, he's not a guy that can stop, change, and switch directions very fluidly. That's just not in his DNA. It was hard watching him chase quarterbacks who got out of the pocket. At certain points, he would just give up. That's just not his thing. And pass rushing ability, while he's able to get to the quarterback at times, not his strong suit, doesn't have a Rolodex of moves. If he doesn't win with just pure, unadulterated brute force and power on a bull rush, and he doesn't win quickly with a swim, he's not going to win, period. He doesn't have anything else. There's no spin. There's no latch and snatch technique. None of that. He has none of those in his arsenal. So from a pass rushing standpoint, he usually gets there because of pressure from the outside, guy steps up, boom. Or a hustle sack where a quarterback holds on to it for a tick or two too long, and here comes Harrison Phillips to clean him up. But I think he can be a better pass rusher. But like I said, Kyle Williams, he's hit double digits before in his career, and I can see Harrison Phillips sneaking up one year and getting 9.5, and then boom, 3 years later, he's got 11.5 sacks. It could happen. I don't see it happening, but it could happen. It wouldn't shock me. But nonetheless, this is a guy that did have a knee injury, so this is something that you need to consider. And I used to always say, why does he have these big-ass braces on? Had a knee injury that cost him all but one game in 2015, so that's also something to consider with him. But look, I still have my reservations about Harrison Phillips. Just because I like this guy and a little bit, better, probably a little bit more than I did before watching tape, I still have my reservations about how good this guy really is. And so with the third round selection, 96th overall, Stanford defensive lineman Harrison Phillips for the Buffalo Bills is... So we move on to the next selection for this Buffalo Bills football team. And this guy right here reminds me a lot of what the Bills did in the first round last year. I mean, similar size, similar characteristics. I said the exact same thing. And if you want to be honest, that's my comp for this guy right here is Tre'Davious White, who you selected in the first round. If you remember my exact words last year, I said, I don't know what's missing. Something's missing. The guy's really good. He really is, but something's missing. He's not elite. That's the same way I feel about this next draft pick. 4th round, 121st overall. Corner out of a smaller school at Weber State. Tyron Johnson is the pick. So Tyron Johnson is right around the same exact size. Again, I feel like a broken record. I feel like I'm repeating myself because 5'11", $192, that's right around the weight that in height that Tre'Davious White was a year ago in the first round for the Bills. The biggest difference, obviously, is level of competition. You know, Tre'Davious White played at LSU against the big boys in the SEC. Meanwhile, Teron Johnson is coming from Weber State in the Big Sky Conference, okay? So you're talking about a guy that was playing major Division I football in the FBS, and now you're talking about a guy that's playing in the FCS. Totally different level of competition, but nonetheless, I swear they're splitting images of one another. This guy knows how to play the game of football, man. And I felt the same way about Tre'Davious White. I said he's a good football player, but there was always a but with Tre'Davious White, and he turned out to be a hell of a draft pick for you last year. Burst onto the scene. It was outstanding for you, forcing fumbles, picking off passes, whatever you needed, he did it. And this is another guy that I think will do exactly that if given the opportunity in Buffalo here in Teron Johnson. So let's start with his measurables, or his speed, I should say. 4.5 flat. That's good speed for an NFL corner. Athleticism, he's a really good athlete. Same thing could be said for his acceleration, change of direction, and agility. All of these things come in a nice, neat package with Teron Johnson. Anticipation and awareness. I think one of his biggest attributes is his awareness in dissecting what a team is trying to do. Teron Johnson is one of those guys that he sees what's happening before it happens. You want to throw a bubble, and I can't tell you how many times I saw teams try to go after him throwing bubbles, because what you'll find in smaller conferences and smaller schools with really good players that have the potential to play at the next level, especially at the cornerback position, once they identify you as a talent, teams just stay away from them. They treat you like star corners in the NFL. They just go to the other side. So this guy not going to get a ton of opportunities to make plays, and when teams do decide to come his way, they're on bubbles and hitches and safe throws, and he's all over that stuff. He'll play off, but he identifies it quickly and gets in and makes tackles. I mean, I can't tell you how many times he got into a guy on a hitch or a bubble and 3-yard loss, 4-yard loss, incomplete, because he's in the backfield making a play. So he identifies these things very well, jumps all over slants and underneath routes to knock them away. This guy set a school record at Weber State for the most PBUs in a career with 42. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that's averaging right around 10 PBUs a season, which is ridiculous. So he's getting his hands on the football, making plays, locate, and contest. That's one of my biggest things for a corner, is being an LLCer. Do you look? Do you locate? Do you contest the football? You can't contest what you don't see. A lot of times when guys try to contest without looking, that's how you get a face guarding penalty and a PI. So he's a guy that will look, locate, and pick off a pass. And I actually saw him do that. Watched him pick off 2 passes versus Idaho State. And I watched him in a number of different contests. Idaho State, watched him against South Dakota in 2016, and then watched him against Southern Utah in 2017. So watched him against Idaho State in 2017, pick off 2 passes. And the beauty of it was, one was in man, one was in zone. And so one was in press man-to-man. Quarterback took a shot up the sidelines. And not only did he get a nice little press off at the line of scrimmage, but he stayed right in the hip pocket of the receiver, so much so they actually ran the route for that receiver, stayed on top of him, and it was a go ball, and he ran it down like a receiver and picked it off. Then on the zone coverage interception, he's all the way in cover 3 in the middle of the field, running with the guy running the post. They run a wheel up the sideline. He falls off the post, comes back to the wheel, and makes the interception. Thing of beauty. And again, that goes back to the awareness that we spoke of, and seeing what's going on and understanding what teams are trying to do to you and being able to go and make a play. So he's got some ball skills. 6 career INTs for Teron Johnson. So again, this is a guy that can get the job done. Tackling and willingness to tackle despite his diminutive size, much like Tre'Davious White a season ago. Guy's not afraid to mix it up, get in the fray, and make a play. And so he'll get in there, throw his body around, and try to make a tackle. So I like that as well with Teron Johnson. Man and zone coverage ability, I like him in both settings. I think both of those he's equally as good at right now. And he also offers you the ability to blitz on blitz in a couple of situations. So this is a guy that I think can help you in a number of different ways. But his versatility to play in the slot, playing out on the boundary is going to benefit him, because I don't know exactly what the Bills are going to look to do with this guy. But if I had to guess, I think they're going to do what they did last year with Tre'Davious White and put him out on the boundary and see what happens there first. And that's what I would do if I were the Buffalo Bills with Teron Johnson. But you look at his cons, his measurables, obviously at 5'11", buck 92, that's not the ideal size you're looking for today's NFL corner. You know, everybody wants the Jalen Ramsey guy that's 6'1", 6'2", 210, 215 pounds. You know, you're looking for Patrick Peterson, guy that's thick, stout, fast, physical, that's 6 foot, 6'1", 210 pounds, that's built to be able to run, jump, tackle, be physical with these 6'3", 6'4" monsters out wide. But, at 5'11", buck 92, that's not necessarily the case here with Teron Johnson. So, again, it is what it is. I said the same thing about Tre'Davious White last season, and look what he was able to do in the league. And so I feel the same way about this guy. Again, level of competition does say buyer beware, but if you can play football, you can play football. They find these guys everywhere, and this is a guy that I really like. So in the 4th round, 121st pick overall, Weber State corner Teron Johnson for me is so the Bills go back to back with small school defensive backs by doubling down on the position here in the 5th round, 154th overall pick. Jacksonville State defensive back Siran Neal is the selection. So Siran Neal is an intriguing prospect. 6 feet, 206 pounds, out of Jacksonville State. So is another small school guy out of the Ohio Valley State Conference. Here's a guy that I watched play against LSU in 2016 and Eastern Illinois in 2017. And the thing that's so intriguing about this guy is his versatility. I don't know what the Bills exactly are going to do with him or ask him to do. This is a guy that played safety in 2015, played linebacker in 2016, where I thought he was an absolute animal, and then turned around and played corner, press corner at that, a lot of times in 2017. So you're looking at a guy that is as versatile a defender as you get at the collegiate ranks. Whatever his team asked him to do, that's essentially what Siran Neal did. So possibilities are endless with this guy. I'll be honest with you. I'll give you my full assessment of what I think he is at the next level and how he can be best utilized at the end of this breakdown. But let's get into some of his pros. Measurables at 6 feet, 206. If you're going to use him as a safety, that's fine weight. Would you like him to be a little bit heavier? Sure. And getting into an NFL weight training program will allow him to put on an extra 5 to 10 pounds. So that's fine size at the next level. Speed 4.56. That's excellent speed for a safety. Sometimes we get caught up with these numbers when we see guys running 4.47s like a Minkah Fitzpatrick, or Derwin James running a 4.46. 4.56 is plenty fast at the safety position. Trust me. Athleticism. This guy's an athlete. He's got good acceleration. When you see him close the distance on ball carriers, it's fun to watch, man. And he comes with an aggression that it may be unmatched in this draft. I mean, you don't see as many guys coming with the ferocity to tear guys' heads off like you do with Siran Neal on a consistent basis, especially when you go back to 2016, where he was just ridiculous. And even 2015 when he was at the safety position. Less of it in 2017, obviously, at the cornerback position, being asked to do something totally different. But when he had free range as a linebacker or as a safety in 15 and 16, this dude was ridiculous. Change of direction. I thought that you saw a little bit of his limitations in terms of change of direction at the cornerback position. But even still, it was really good for a guy that is a little tight because, again, he's more of a safety than he is a corner. But again, I still thought it was really good for a guy, being asked to make a switch to corner from safety and linebacker. Anticipation and awareness, I think he still got some developing in that area, but it's still good enough for it to be considered a pro right now, especially when he really wasn't able to hone in on one particular position and continue to build on what he learned the year previous. He was asked to do something else the very next year, every single year while at Jacksonville State. So can't really beat him up too much for that. I think he'll have a better understanding of what's being asked of him and what he'll need to do at the next level, as he is going to be put at one particular position and allowed to grow at that position. So I'm anxious to see what happens with him moving forward. Look, locate, contest as a corner. He did that from time to time. Didn't always look back for the football, but he looked back enough. Even as a safety, he looked back enough that I felt comfortable allowing that to be a pro. Ball skills, I think he has some. I'm not quite sure. I teeter back and forth with that. I let him slide on that again. This guy had like an interception every year, but just one. So hard to really say. You know, if he's got elite ball skills, you know, manageable ball skills, or if he's lacking ball skills. I can tell you this. I watched this guy completely drop an interception out in space, which leads me to believe that his ball skills are not up to par. So if I had to lean towards one way or the other, I probably would side with him not having tremendous ball skills. So that could easily be a con. But we're going to just leave it as a pro for now. This is without a doubt his biggest characteristic and attribute right now, and that's tackling and willingness to tackle. This guy's a physical punisher. In terms of a hitter, the only criticism I have of him is he needs to wrap up. You know, guys that love to drop the hammer, love to do it with their shoulders, rarely do they wrap up. And at the collegiate ranks, when you're going up against Eastern Illinois and teams like that, you can get away with that. You can go and bust a guy up when you're playing against Saginaw Valley State. You can go and drop a shoulder on them and have that work out for you. But when you're playing up against the big boys, guys will bounce off of your shoulder. Now, like I said, he comes with a level of ferocity and velocity that I don't know if many guys are bouncing off of these shoulders that he's dishing out. But still, I'd like to see him be a little bit more responsible when coming up and wrap some guys up. You can still be ferocious and be a hitter and wrap guys up at the same time. But in any event, he's coming with really bad intentions when he's looking to hit. That's for sure. Man and zone coverage, I think he's equally solid. Not great, doesn't excel at either one. I think he's probably better as an underneath defender in zone coverage right now, where he can keep his eyes on the quarterback, see what's going on, keep everything in front of him, and react to what he's seeing. That's when he's at his best and probably the most dangerous, is when he's in zone and he's able to see what's going on underneath. Blitzing capabilities, this is a guy that can and will blitz, and I think he'll get even better with that as he gets more reps at blitzing and timing it up and coming from different angles. I think this guy is a chess piece that you can play around with and move around on the football field and use him as a nickel backer and move him around and do some things with him. So, again, I'm really fascinated with this guy, and I'm interested to see right now what Sean McDermott and company are going to do with him at the next level. Field coverage and range, also solid. Versatility, I already spoke about the versatility that this guy brings to the table, whether you're talking safety, linebacker, corner, or him being a core special teamer as well. So, again, I think this guy brings a lot to the table. And then finally, toughness and durability. Started every game the last 2 years and played in every game for Jacksonville State over the last 3 seasons. So, I don't have any real negatives on this guy other than you don't know what position he's going to play at the next level and what he's going to be asked to do. I will say this, that because he is a master of none kind of guy, I call these types of players Pam Mom type players, proficient at many, master of none. That worries me a little bit because I don't know what you're going to do with this guy. It reminds me a lot of the first round pick of the Cleveland Browns, one of their first round picks a season ago out of Michigan, and Jabril Peppers. He was a guy that came into the league linebacker, safety. He was all over the place, punt returner. And really, what was he good at? There wasn't one discernible trait. Just he was an athlete. You put him on the field and you allow him to do something. And last year, the Browns found out that he's not a great safety, at least not yet. And again, it's early, and you don't want to jump on guys too early. I hate when people start to put guys in a box early on in their career, especially after their rookie seasons. But at times, Jabril Peppers looked lost last year, and I kind of fear for Siran Neal in that same kind of regard. Like, where is this guy going to go? What is his best position? Where is he most naturally put? I told you I was going to give you my assessment. After watching him in 16 and then watching him in 17 and seeing clips of him in 15, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you that I think this guy's an in-the-box strong safety. That's where I think he's going to be best utilized. And in nickel situations, if you wanted to make him your nickel backer, because right now your safeties that you brought in last year in free agency, they were dynamic for you last year. They were dynamite. You don't want to touch anything back there. This is a guy that I think can come in and play some nickel backer for you. You know, in some situations, come down and be another defender in the box. But add some athleticism. And with more weight, he may be able to do that on a consistent basis for you. I just see him as an underneath guy and underneath coverages and some zone, guy that you can blitz, a guy that can run with some of these running backs, tight ends, that kind of thing underneath. Because he's got the ability to play man-to-man coverage, but be physical. He was a linebacker, and I thought that was one of his better seasons. I want to see what happens with him. I've got reservations, you know, and I think some of that comes from watching Jabril Peppers and his versatility and how that didn't really benefit him at the next level. I want to see what Sean McDermott has in store for Siran Neal. 5th round, 154th pick overall. Jacksonville State defensive back, should we say? Siran Neal is. So we go to the next 5th round pick, 166th overall. Virginia Tech offensive lineman Wyatt Teller is the selection. So I'm not going to lie to you with Wyatt Teller. The first game that I put on was this guy playing against Clemson, and I watched him in 3 games versus Clemson, Virginia, and Oklahoma State in 2017. And I'm not going to lie to you. The first game I put on was Virginia Tech versus Clemson, and I was not impressed with Wyatt Teller. He was getting his ass torn up. And granted, that Clemson defensive front is ferocious, and man, are they good. They've probably got 3 or 4 first-round picks on their defensive line in the 2019 NFL Draft. They're that good up front. If guys stay healthy, they've got at least 2 first-rounders on that defensive line, if not 3. All of them are going to get drafted, all probably within the first 2 to 3 rounds. Many of them probably coming off the board in the first round. They're that good up front. And so he got his ass whooped. I'm not going to lie. And but the entire team got their asses handed to him in that game. It was not close. And I walked away from that game saying, look, if this is the best you got, Wyatt, I see why you were a 5th round pick. And then I watched more Wyatt Teller. And he grew on me in the Virginia game. And then I watched more Wyatt Teller. And then I was sold. This is a damn good football player, one that you're getting in the 5th round. And I talked about this a number of times, whether on the podcast or on some of these other breakdowns, that teams are hesitant to spend early round draft picks on interior offensive linemen because you can get good value late in the draft. You know, the guys that you see coming off the board, like a Brandon Sheriff early on in the draft, or even this season, and Quentin Nelson, those are rare. Those are guys that you see them and you say, this guy has Hall of Fame potential. He's that good. Otherwise, you don't take a Zach Martin early in the draft because you can get good interior offensive line play later in the draft. And this is a guy that I'm here to tell you, you may have gotten yourself a steal, especially in a year where your interior was ravaged by guys either retiring in Eric Wood or being moved on from in Richie Incognito. You needed somebody to come in here and potentially help you up front. And Wyatt Teller may be the guy for the job. 6'5", 314 pounds out of Virginia Tech. 30 reps of 2 1/4. This guy is a weight room monster. And so those 30 reps, again, with a guy with 34-inch arms, you need to respect that. Don't let Harrison Phillips, 40 reps at 2 1/4 with 34-inch arms, throw you for a loop. 30 reps at 2 1/4 is big boy weight, okay, being tossed up with a guy with long arms. So respect that for what it is. This guy came out of high school as one of the top defensive linemen in the country, and then was asked to make the switch at Virginia Tech to the offensive side of the football, first to tackle, then over to guard. So the first 2 years or so at Virginia Tech, this guy was still learning the offensive line position and the fine techniques and nuances of the position. So he's still learning and still getting better. But this is a guy that I've got confidence in after watching him on tape. Start with his measurables. 34-inch arms, 6'5", 314. Mwah, beautiful. That's what you're looking for from your offensive lineman, especially on the interior. Athleticism, he's actually a better athlete than you think. 5'2", 440. When I watched him move and pull, and he's one of these guys that, when you get him out on the edge as a puller, this guy's moving and he doesn't miss. He's like a magnet. I see a lot of guys come out as a puller and they're just running. And they don't have a radar. They're not locking on to anybody. They're just running. And they'll run past a defender or two. And next thing you know, the guy that's behind you, relying on you to pick off somebody so he can make a move, is getting tackled. And the offensive lineman is still running. And he doesn't even know that the guy's tackled because he's not running with his head on a swivel. He hasn't identified the MDM, most dangerous man, and destroyed him. That's what you do when you're pulling. You come around as a puller and you should have your head up looking for the next target you're going to destroy. And Wyatt Teller does that. And so his athleticism is something that you don't need to disregard. I think he's a better athlete than people give him credit for. Technique, he's really solid technique-wise. I think he can work on his one-arm stab. You know, as an offensive lineman, your hands, your arms are your tools, your working tools. And they're what keeps guys at bay, keeps guys off balance. And if you want to do that, you got to be good with your hands and your feet. Those need to work in unison. And sometimes his one-arm stab is a little off. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But his technique is just fine. Anchor, he will give ground, but he'll never give in. And I love that about Wyatt Teller. I never saw him bull rushed to the point where he was in the lap of the quarterback. I saw him moved, but he always found a way to dig those heels in and stop the momentum of that defensive player and make a stand and say, no, all right, you've done enough. You're not moving me anymore. Balance, really good balance for a big man on the interior. Good toughness. When you start 43 of 53 games, and you play in 53 games, period, says a lot. Says a lot. Pass blocking ability, like I said earlier, one-arm stab, slightly off at times, which will get him beat, and it did against Clemson quite often. Run blocking ability, he actually generates movement. I can't tell you how many guys I watch where they're just looking to seal. They're just looking to kind of be a barrier between ball carrier and defender. Look, I just want to get in the way. I'm not looking to create space or create a new line of scrimmage. I'm just looking to seal and wall off a defender and give you just enough space. You better be a really good back at getting skinny, because I'm not moving this guy. I'm just turning my ass and creating a crease. You better know what to do with that. This is a guy that actually will create space, will create a new line of scrimmage, will move guys from point A to point B and create an area for the running back to run. So he actually generates movement in the run game. Okay, very impressive there. Finish, he sustains well. I know a lot of guys that will engage, but they don't sustain blocks. And their guy is the one that makes the tackle. I talked about Harrison Phillips being a stack and shed monster. Well, against guys like Wyatt Teller, harder to be a stack and shed monster because he's sustaining his block well until the back has already cleared him and gotten up the field. Awareness, spatial awareness. For a guy that's making the conversion from defensive lineman to offensive lineman, I was so impressed with his ability to double team and come off the double team, pick up a blitzer, twist and stunts. He was all over those guys looping around. He had no problems with interior pressure, no problems with TE games, no problems with double teams and late green dog blitzers. This guy was all over that stuff, man. He identified the issue, and his head was always on a swivel, never gave up any pressures due to a guy blitzing or a late blitzer or a looping defensive tackle coming over or a defensive end looping inside and stunting. He's all over that stuff, man. Very impressed. Looking for work. Head is always on a swivel. When he doesn't have anybody to block, he'll find someone to block. Double teams, thought he was exceptional on the double team and getting off the double team and working his way up to the second level. So once again, he's really adept at understanding, okay, you got here, you got this guy, I've helped you enough, let me climb to the second level and wipe out that linebacker and create a crease. Pulling, I talked about him pulling earlier and how impressed I was with him coming around the corner. And then availability, I talked about this guy playing in 53 games, starting 43 of them, only missed 3 starts over the past 2 seasons. I mean, this guy has been extremely durable for the Virginia Tech Hokies. And so not a lot here not to like. The only thing that I have on my cons list is his redirect. And again, he's 314, he's 6'5", 314. He's not stopping and starting that very easily, but I walked away so impressed, man. After the initial game versus Clemson and then watching him in several other games and just watching him make plays, I said the Bills have found their replacement on the interior of their offensive line here in Wyatt Teller. And if you ask me after Tremaine Edmonds, who's the next guy I believe in the most in this draft, I tell you, it's your 5th round, 166th overall selection out of Virginia Tech, offensive guard, Wyatt Teller. So we move on to the final 2 picks in this draft, both at the receiver position. First, 6th round, 187th overall selection, Clemson wide receiver Ray McCloud is the selection. .5'10", $190, stands Ray McCloud out of Clemson. This is a guy that I went into the process not really knowing a lot about other than just watching Clemson football on Saturdays and watching Ray McCloud make the occasional play, but not really knowing what this guy really was about. So when I dug in, looked at some of the numbers, then I put on some games, watched him in 2017 versus Miami, watched him against Louisville in 2017. Also watched him in 2016. I saw a guy that was a lot better than I anticipated. 49 catches over the last 2 seasons. In each of the last 2 seasons, So 98 total over the last 2 years, 49 in each of the last 2 seasons. Missed 4 out of 44 games, none, however, in 2017. So that's good that he was able to stay healthy. So let's jump into some of his pros. His hands, a lot better than what I was going to give him credit for. I thought he was a gadget guy. I said, okay, Ray McCloud, one of these guys that you jet sweep it to, throw some hitches, some bubbles to, throw a little slant to, but can't give him anything complex. He can't handle it. I was wrong. They ran just about everything with Ray McCloud. Speed cuts, slants, the occasional dig. He's definitely running the 9 ball. Yeah, they got him some jet sweeps. Yeah, you know, he did some of the underneath stuff and the gadget stuff, but he did a lot more than I was giving him credit for. There were a number of corner routes, post corners. He ran some complex stuff, and he excelled. And more importantly, his quarterbacks trusted him. You know, both Deshaun Watson and now the new quarterback that they have at Clemson, they trust him. Kelly Bryant, they trust him. So that's good to know. That's comforting to know. Speed 4.53, 40. That's about what he looks like on tape. I thought he was going to be faster because when you see him make plays, you just assume he's faster. But when I watched him open up a couple of times, I wasn't overly impressed. He didn't look like a burner to me. So 4.53, which is good speed. Don't get it twisted. Solid speed for Ray McCloud. Quickness and suddenness, he wins a lot with that, especially as a punt returner. And even when he gets the ball in his hands and as a route runner, he wins with quickness and suddenness. He's going to be able to separate because of that fact. Acceleration, he's got good acceleration. I don't think it's elite, though. Good enough, but not elite. Route running, he's solid as a route runner. He'll win some situations because of his quickness, but he's still got some ways to go in terms of route running. I think, though, as he gets more comfortable in a system and his role is defined, because they asked him to do some of everything at Clemson. They moved him around, and I think that's what the Bills honestly need to do with this guy. I don't think he is a, hey, just play receiver type guy. You got to do different things with him. You got to have him return punts. You got to run jet sweeps with him, you know, and that will loosen him up, get him into the flow of things. But don't make any mistake. This guy can play the receiver position as well. Toughness and physicality. For a small guy, he's got it, man. I watched him on some third downs in some tight window situations where you knew he was going to get hit. Ray McCloud on some slants, on some hookups, some hook routes over the middle of the field where, you know, this backer's probably going to take your head off on 3rd and 4, but I need it. He was willing to give it. So from that standpoint, again, very impressed. Really was not expecting that when I turned on Ray McCloud game tape, but that's what I got. Run after the catch. Because of his punt return ability, I was expecting a little bit more after the catch. Not to say that he wasn't doing, you know, some good things. I was expecting extraordinary. I was expecting him to break dudes off like he was as a punt returner. That's not what I got. But I did get a guy that was going north and south and getting extra yards after the catch. Leaping ability and high pointing the football. Of everything that I saw, maybe outside of the toughness in some critical third down situations, this might have been the most surprising thing that I got with the Ray McCloud package. I watched him against Virginia Tech, against Louisville, go up and get the football. He's 5'10", all right, $190. Those guys don't climb the ladder, okay? Those guys are rare. The Steve Smiths of the world who are undersized that will go up and get the football, that's rare. Ray McCloud, he's not Steve Smith. I'm not saying that. But this guy will go up and high point a football, man. Like, really impressed with him. And for a Bills team that is starving for anything at wide receiver, this is going to be a welcome addition here in Ray McCloud. Catch radius, again, I just told you he'll climb the ladder. Now, again, he's only 5'10", so don't get crazy with the catch radius, but he'll go up and use every inch and ounce of that 5'10" to go get the football. You got to love that. Ball tracking skills. I watched him go and get a couple of deep balls. Watched him go get a deep ball against Auburn and dive for one. I watched him go track one over the shoulder, again, versus Auburn. I watched him go get a deep ball versus Louisville on a double move where he just absolutely toasted a corner. I watched this guy make plays in the pass game. Watched him track one against Virginia Tech in the air. So, ball tracking skills, again, really good. Clutchness and dependability. If it wasn't Hunter Renfrow on third down and short to mediate or to medium, it was Ray McCloud on third downs for Kelly Bryant, for Deshaun Watson. So Ray McCloud was a guy that in some critical clutch third down situations, they weren't afraid to go to him, and he delivered for Clemson. Versatility. This guy is a wide receiver. He's a punt returner, jet sweep, gadget guy. He brings a lot to the table. Slot. They played him out wide. Maybe you can get away with that at the next level. You know, we'll see. Sideline awareness, solid there. Production. solid production, doesn't blow you away. But remember, he was at Clemson with a number of big-time receivers. Deion Kane, all right, comes to mind. Mike Williams comes to mind. These are all guys that were targets that were ahead of him. Hunter Renfrow, targets ahead of him on the pecking order, on the totem pole, yet he was still able to get 49 catches in both of the last 2 seasons. So not heavy production, but good enough production for a guy that they just found ways to get the football to. You look at his cons, obviously his measurables at 5'10", $190. That's not ideal for a wide receiver, but again, it all depends on what you're asking him to do. And we've seen guys that have been of smaller stature really separate themselves in this league, i.e. Antonio Brown as a really, again, rare example, but nonetheless, we see guys like this all the time make plays at the next level. Ray McCloud could be that guy. You never know. I see a lot of good things out of him. And then blocking, I didn't see enough effort out of him as a blocker, but I'm not going to kill him for that. But look, he's still a Clemson wide receiver, short stature. We haven't had the most success with these Clemson guys in the league. You know, Martavis Bryant, to me, might be the best of this group right now. Sammy Watkins has never been what we thought he was going to be at the NFL level. He's shown flashes. We've seen him at his best, and he's damn good, but we haven't gotten it enough. Mike Williams came into the league last year, couldn't stay healthy. We still don't know what he is right now. So Clemson receivers haven't necessarily lived up to the billing of yet. You know, DeAndre Hopkins and the receiver that I just mentioned, I forgot his name. It escaped me already that quickly. From Martavis Bryant. Those are the two that stand out for me as guys that, when they're in the game, could be true difference makers. Raymond McCloud is a guy that I like on this Bills roster. I still don't see a number 1 wide receiver in Buffalo. And I don't know what Raymond McCloud's role is going to be, but he's going to make this team. You don't have anything at receiver right now. And I guess Kelvin Benjamin is your number 1. If he's healthy, hopefully he's in shape. And I'm assuming that Zay Jones, that whole episode is done and he's back. And then you add in a guy like Ray McCloud and some of the other guys, and maybe you got something at receiver, and maybe the next guy you add in at the receiver position, if he's healthy, gives you something. But in the 6th round, 187th overall selection, wide receiver out of Clemson, Ray McCloud for me is And finally, to wrap up this Bills draft, 7th round, 255th overall selection, North Carolina wide receiver Austin Proehl is the selection. I'll be brief with him. I don't want to talk your head off here. 5'9", $182 for Austin Proehl. If the name sounds familiar, it should, because he's got NFL bloodlines. His father was a hell of a receiver in the league, Ricky Proehl, 2-time Super Bowl winning wide receiver, once with the Greatest Show on Turf with the Rams in '99, and again to end his career in Indianapolis. So this is a guy that had a hell of a decorated NFL career, and we'll see if his son can follow in his footsteps. This guy missed 6 games in 2017, 9 total in his career, so that's a little bit of a problem. Never had big production. 16 was his only full season, and that was with Mitchell Trubisky at the quarterback position. That was his best year of his career. 43 catches, 597 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Broken clavicle last year really stunted what was going to be his best season. He got off to a really good start. I watched him in 2017 versus Louisville early in the season, and he lit them up for like 8 and $140. I mean, he was really destroying them. And then I watched him in Stanford, his final game in 2016 against Stanford, making some big catches for Trubisky in that ball game. But this guy has a lot to prove. That's why he's a 7th round pick and one of the last selections in the 2018 NFL draft. Hands are legit. His dad's a technician, so His route running is legit as well. Speed, I didn't see this on tape, but at the regional combine, this guy ran a 4.41. I didn't see 4.41 on tape. So maybe I just wasn't watching. Maybe I never got to see him open up and run, but I never once saw 4.41. So take it for what it's worth, but he can run. That's what that means. He can run. It's in there. I just didn't see it. Quickness, suddenness, he wins with quickness and suddenness. That's how he shakes free and creates separation. Acceleration, he can run, he can move. Route running, like I said, off the charts. Got it from his daddy. You know, it is what it is. Physicality, he's physical enough, but he's still 5'9", buck 82. I mean, there's only so physical you can be at that size. Toughness, the guy's tough as nails. Broke his clavicle. I love saying that word, clavicle. Okay, broke his clavicle and came back. They thought his season was over in 2017. Broke his clavicle 4 games into the season, missed 6 games, came back for senior day, played the final 2 games of the season. No one thought it was possible. So guys tough as nails. Run after the catch is solid. You know, you see him doing some work after the catch. You turn on that Louisville game, first play of the game against Louisville, 2017. Catches a bubble, you know, a little hitch, makes a guy miss, gets up the field and gets about 12 on a play that should have been -2, at best, no gain. He gets 12 out of it. So there's a little run after the catch with him. Ball tracking, he can go and get it. You know, he can go and get it. Dependability and clutchness. You go to that Stanford game in 2016, that bowl game, and you watch him make clutch catch after clutch catch, especially on that final drive when they're trying to go down and tie the game. Mitchell Trubisky moving them down the field to try to tie that game up. He makes a gorgeous toe-tapping catch, makes it look easy. Again, his dad's Ricky Pro, so he knows how to finesse the sidelines, which is the next pro. You go watch that Stanford game and he catches it. And most college players are just interested in getting 1 down. This guy got 2, drugged the toe. You saw the little black pellets fly up in the air. I'm like, stop, Austin Pro. Okay, cut it out. Versatility guy, was a punt returner. Obviously, a wide receiver can play slot or out wide, but at 5'9", he's a slot guy. Let's call it what it is. He's a slot at the next level if he's going to make this Bills roster. And so you go from those pros to his cons. Obviously, 5'9", buck 82, his measurables are not ideal, but if he's a slot, which I'm putting him in a box, I'm pigeonholing him and saying he's a slot, 5'9", 182, you can win in the slot at 5'9", 182. Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, those guys have made a living at around 5'9", 5'10", 5'8", killing guys in the slot. So it can be done. Also, leaping ability, high point in the football, no. That's just not necessarily what you're going to get out of this guy. Catch radius, again, he's 5'9", buck 82. Blocking, nope. Don't ask him to do it. That's just, no, don't ask him to do it. Production. I told you what his best year of production was. 43 catches, 597 yards, 3 touchdowns. Every other year, it's been hit or miss with this guy. So whether it's injuries, lack of targets, he's a less productive clone of Ryan Switzer, a guy he played with at North Carolina that got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys last year. He is a Ryan Switzer clone. Maybe not as quick, much faster, not as quick, but just as reliable in terms of hands and shifty. He's Ryan Switzer. If he stays healthy, he's going to make this Bills roster because, let's face it, what else do you have in the slot? Who else do you have that can win and make plays for you? Nobody. That's why you made this selection. It wouldn't shock me if all 8 of these selections made your football team. Not one of these guys are a weak link in this draft class. And I said all that to say this. In the 7th round, 255th overall selection, North Carolina wide receiver Austin Proehl is. So that's the Bills draft. Brandon Beane, stand up. Give yourself a pat on the back, man. This was an outstanding haul, starting at the quarterback position and then doubling back and getting you another impact, immediate football player in Tremaine Edmonds. Loved it. Loved it. Then you turn around, you address the interior of your defensive and offensive lines, and you add some more depth to your secondary, and then you finish up by really addressing a position that I thought you should have addressed earlier in the draft, wide receiver, with two guys that are diminutive in size, but definitely can help bolster a receiver group that is starving for some talent and an upgrade. Let's see what this draft amounted to from a score perspective. So that's going to do it for the Buffalo Bills and their 2018 NFL Draft wrap-up. Got plenty more of these to come down the pipeline, so don't you go anywhere. Remember, we're changing the game over here, one video at a time. And I'm your man, Louie Tee, signing off. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. Make sure you're checking out that podcast. And make sure you're signed up to the Louie Tee Network.net, my website. See you next time.
Louie Tee Network.